Record. Hi, my name is Daniel,
And my name is Ashley.
I'm Chris.
and today we're going to be discussing the article Voices of Historical and Contemporary Black American Pioneers by Dr. Joseph Graves and how his work relates back to this biology course. In this conversation, we will discuss Dr. Graves' journey through his career and how it can relate back to us regarding evolutionary biology. Chris, did you want to go more into depth about that?
I read his article and I see that he discussed uh, how, or his experience was that there were few African Americans in the sciences, and
Yeah,
he sort of had to make his own path.
right.
And uh, in encouraging other African Americans to join him, uh, as well as others, uh, he has generated he found a way to generate acceptance, but he felt he had to make extra efforts to create
Yes.
the path. And he had some great suggestions for everyone.
Yeah, so some of the suggestions include, in his article, he talks about unwritten rules and he gives advice on each of them actually. So the first one would be to know who the big men are in your field and either try to win them over or try to neutralize them. Definitely don't try to antagonize powerful gatekeepers before your tenure.
Don't want to do
Yeah.
that.
The tactic for this role would be to cultivate at least one senior, well-connected mentor who can advocate for you. The second role would be to understand power relations in your department or college who makes decisions. So uh, this tactic for this would be to map and analyze the local power structure and early and to strategically ally yourself with individuals whose priorities intersect with yours. The third rule would be to be careful with whom you trust. It's common that many allies will try to evaluate your work through self-interest. However, a tactic would be to diversify your network, such as national collaborators, minority-focused programs, and outside mentors tend to reduce dependency on a single office or person. So, for example, like try to reach out outside of your office or outside of your institution. Choose battles wisely is the fourth rule. So fight intellectually and with evidence try to avoid fights that you can't win. So when advocating for institutional change, frame arguments in terms of how they will benefit the institution. So for example, a way to do this would be diversity programs increase grant competitiveness or student recruitment. Either of them will both benefit the institution. The fifth rule would be to keep personal and professional life separate. This is
Very important.
probably one of the most important rules.
I agree.
Always document your stuff. This will be helpful against people try to say things against you, and make sure to follow the grant and ethics rules.
Right. So adding on to that, what I took away from these unwritten rules is that they are a very good basis for values that we should follow in a professional setting or even just in everyday life. The unwritten rule that stood out to me the most was number three, be careful whom you trust. This one stood out to me the most because, especially in today's society, you never know who is acting fake towards you. Some people could be nice to you in your face, but behind your back, they could be talking negative about you or about your work. And the vice versa is true as well. Sometimes we have to look deeper and make sure that the people whom we trust are actually in our best interest to aid us in our careers and overall to make our lives better and easier. Ashley, what did you take away from the unwritten rules?
Yeah, so the unvulnerables to me, they stood out to me, specifically the one about the decisions and who gets to make the decisions. So like the power relations and the department or college. I find it eye-opening because it's not only about producing good science, but also being aware of political and social dynamics around you. It helps me realize that it's not just about formal titles, it's about that give influence, but also like senior faculty, committee chairs, or even administrators who actually are the ones who or enable projects or people to get supported.
Right.
Yeah, those people who are in charge of the money, you want to keep your private life away from them. That's pretty
100%.
important to do, um, because you don't want everybody to know your business. at home, and you don't want the people at home knowing what
And
you really do at home.
don't want,
You don't want the people at home knowing what you're doing at work.
right,
It
because then they can use
it
that
doesn't
against you.
function. It doesn't function
They can
well.
use that against you as well.
So
And yeah.
yeah.
But going on to what we took away from this Dr. Graves article, what I took away from it was that Dr. Graves had to endeavor a very long path of hardship and determination in order to accomplish his career goals. Dr. Graves mentions how in the beginning of his career, he didn't know that his interests in sciences and social justice would become so intertwined. He mentions that he believed that the institutions he was applying and eventually got accepted into would be accepting in the fact that he was an African American who was pursuing a degree in evolutionary biology. However, he soon learned that even his fellow African American peers did not feel like obtaining a PhD was worth the trouble for them, so most of them were just hoping to get a master's degree. What I took away from this was that Dr. Graves was a unique case. He knew that he wanted to get a higher level degree, and he knew that he had to put the work into that, and he had to work harder than his white peers in order to achieve this goal. Chris, what did you take away from Dr. Graves?
Dr. Graves, once again, it's I I feel that he accomplished his goals in the era before the internet, and he had more of a challenge because he didn't have the internet available to him.
For sure.
But
Less resources.
that meant that he's probably a better networker than I am.
Yeah, or any of us
So
of our
so
time, for sure.
he would definitely have something to teach me.
Yeah, all of us, for sure.
Yeah, so I agree with you as well. He basically pushes back against the way biology has been misused in society, especially when it comes to ideas and about race. I looked at his CV and it showed me how broad his research is, from microbial evolution to aging to nanoparticle resistance. I also learned that multiple institutions and roles before that there are multiple institutions and roles before reaching a stable position, such as like a full professor or a leadership role. He mentions that there's a long and extensive process. So, for example, you start off with your undergraduate, then you move along to your PhD, your postdoctoral training. After that, you become an assistant professor and you work on your tenure. Once you obtain it, you finally get promoted to a full professor or a leadership role is granted.
Which is the goal.
Yeah, it's a goal.
Yes, it is the goal. But and at that level, you basically become the manager of your research site.
Yep.
Yeah, it's important to note though, however, that throughout this his academic career, he struggled with depression, and seeking treatment saved his life and improved his relationships. He explains how racism and unwritten rules of academia often forced Black scholars like himself to work harder for the same recognition, which is unfortunate. This created isolation and worsened his mental health. By being open about these struggles, he helps destigmatize seeking help. So he hopes that students like ourselves and he seek help and shows that mental health challenges are not signs of weakness, but realities that can be addressed. For undergraduates and fellow classmates, I offer or he offers advice to care for your own well-being, to reach out for help when needed, and to build communities of support that make academic life less isolating and more sustainable.
But on that note, they're just general good decisions for life too.
Yes, I totally agree. And not to add on too much, but I definitely think that mental health is a very important topic and that you should stay on top of it in order to stay healthy overall. But moving on to how we can relate this information back to the class, one important case that Dr. Graves worked on that got him recommended for the President's Postdoctoral Fellowship Program was his research on Drosophila and his presentation he did on it. One way we can relate this back to the course is how population genetics works. We know that genes are carried on the chromosomes from research done on Drosophila. We also know from Drosophila studies that genetic variation wants to always be changing in a population. The only time we don't have any genetic variation is when a population is at Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. We all know what Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium is. Another way we can relate this back to Dr. Gray's research is when biologists look at Drosophila, we can observe the rise and fall in frequencies of the alleles under different environments and conditions. This can help us to observe and identify the natural selection occurring within the population. To add on, this species can reproduce fairly quickly. We biologists can study the evolution of them across many different generations in a reasonable time slot, compared to, say, humans that take a lot longer to reproduce. In these experiments, we impose certain stresses and environments in order to see how the alleles would react to this. As we learned in class, this is an evolutionary trade-off. Overall, Drosophila research is the main basis for evolutionary biology since it helps us directly understand how genetic variation, natural selection, adaptations, and speciation works. Now, moving on to questions that we have for Dr. Graves. Ashley, what questions would you have?
Yeah, so after reading his article and looking at all his work, one question I have would be, what are most effective ways junior scientists can find senior mentors who will actively advocate for them and not just advise them? Another question is, if you could change one institutional policy tomorrow to make academic science more equitable and less stressful for early career minority scholars, what would it be?
I really like that question.
Well, I would like to ask Dr. Graves, what was the most rewarding accomplishment that he achieved professionally?
Also, a very good question.
And at this point in his career, I believe that would be a great question.
Yes.
Uh,
What was his I made it moment? For sure.
of course.
And my question for Dr. Graves would be, how did you overcome the feeling of feeling out of place in your field of study? Like, so basically, how did he overcome that feeling of being a minority in a place where he wasn't the majority? And how did he overcome that in order to feel like he belonged?
With that, we hope you've enjoyed our little podcast and tune in next time.
Thank you.